Two and one. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another stream. We're super excited to be jumping on with you guys, me and Thomas, as always, to chat about the markets. And we obviously had the SpaceX IPOs coming up here. We've got Anthropic IPO as well. We've got the Sam Altman's got some interesting updates here coming up. Market's kind of just holding his breath. And so we're going to talk about it, kind of get into the weeds a little bit on what's going on there. Like the SpaceX IPO is like 4x oversubscribed. Yeah, the market's in like a hold its breath mode, I think, for the next couple of days. I think it's happening on Friday. But yeah, OpenAI filed for an IPO, current valuation at $850 billion, something like that. We have Peter Schiff coming again after our boy, Mr. Sailor. So he is back. He's on a boat this time. And he's out here chirping at Mr. Sailor. So we'll have that clip. We have Sam Bankman-Fried, official pardon is in. And so he has officially, I guess, submitted for the pardon. From what I've heard around these various spaces and stuff, there's some type of category he can get himself placed into where his chances of getting that pardon, I guess, increase substantially, something like that. And so I guess he was able to do that. We'll see what happens. We have STRC also decoupling from its $100 peg, and so that was an interesting thing to watch happen this the past few days. It's been a kind of a wild ride for the crypto side of things, for Bitcoin as well. We'll see what happens in these markets. For those who are watching, please do take a second and repost or quote tweet or tag a friend below the stream so that they know we started. And Thomas, man, I'll pass it over to you to get your general thoughts on these markets, man. See what you're paying attention to the most. How's it going?
Yeah, man, doing good. Excited for another week. It's a few things going on there. I mean,
yeah.
I gotta pause and say on that SBF thing.
Oh yeah, I'm second
like that is filthy. I mean,
dude, I'll tell you what he said too. Have you seen these posts?
Yeah, well, I've seen some of it. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but that is. I'm like, that is absolutely filthy. We're just not having it. So no deal, no dice, more prison for you, Sam. More prison.
We'll talk about that one. That one's fine.
Otherwise, I'm doing good. Look, I think your overall summary assessment of the market is very fair and accurate. It is a little bit of a waiting game, especially pre this SpaceX IPO, because no one really knows how that's going to go, except that it feels big. And maybe one of the problem is that when you have these big things like that, everyone kind of goes like, is this going to be one of those things that we look back on as like a sign of a top, or maybe it's just more, the party keeps going, so to speak. But certainly it's interesting when you have something so big, and it's unusual, right? Because it's like this mammoth IPO for a company that also like doesn't make real money, right? Really. It's like a cool narrative. It would be different. Like I would think people would be looking at this differently if we were talking about like the Stripe IPO, because it's like, hey, this is a great business making, tons of cash and like awesome business model, and it just it would be trading at a much lower multiple, and people would be like, hey, this is great, get this into the hands of retail. With all that being said, I think like I would love, we haven't really talked about this, but I think it's one of the big things that's happened in the market over the last 20 years. And there are reasons for this, but the regulatory reasons for this, but basically companies stopped IPOing, like stopped going public. So there's so many private companies today that should be in the public markets that are not, just because they're like, actually, we have access to so much VC capital. We don't need to go public, and the regulatory stuff that comes with going public is a pain in the ass. It's annoying, and it's like, plus, price on your company. It's not, it's all good when things are going up, but it also can actually negatively affect the business. Like that's challenging for a workforce if your company is like going through a tough period where the stock is getting smashed and people start worrying about their jobs and this sort of thing. So it actually kind of helps when you're a bit illiquid and you don't really know what you're being priced at. So there's a whole bunch of reasons maybe why these companies haven't gone public in the past, but I do think it's good in general to see like some of these cool companies like SpaceX, and I know we're going to talk more about some of these AI companies that will probably go public again soon, or will go public soon. So all that is cool. But anyway, we've got this Anthropic story here, so maybe you want to lead us off this.
So this is the one, actually. I believe this is the one you sent me here, right, Thomas?
Yeah.
From Semi-Analysis. Yeah. So yeah, I was going to say. So I'll just give like a quick intro, and I'll let you kind of bring in the story. But so we've got the SpaceX IPO Friday. We have Anthropic IPO update. We've got the OpenAI filing for confidential IPO as well. And so we're pretty much having like a race to the finish kind of thing. Like a lot of people have brought up, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, the idea of like the liquidation event, where they're like, okay, we need money. We've run out of options everywhere else. Like we're taking it from retail for one final capitulation. This is the way we're going to do it. It's going to be done in this manner, kind of thing. So seeing like the three tech giants kind of thing line up, all in order to do these IPOs. So I'll let you introduce this story, and then we'll keep getting to this one because it's a crazy story what's going on here with all these IPOs.
Models, and this is Anthropic's latest model, which they've done, which is interesting because they've essentially nerfed their model around the specifics of certain prompts that you can provide it, and that's interesting, right? They're basically, the idea is that if you want to use their model to build your own kind of AI model, they've made their model kind of like spaz, like they've just massively dumbed it down, but only in certain areas. So it's kind of essentially, you know, there's a couple of schools of thought here. There's the so-called reason, which is more about AI safety, which they're posing or potentially pretending it's like they don't want to have this kind of recursive learning model where people take their model and then they build a smarter model, which builds a smarter model, which builds a smarter model, and then the AI bots take over the world. I think that's the theoretical reasoning behind it, but it's not, you know, I think the actual reason is like they're trying to create a bit more of a moat between them and their competitors, right? They're trying to create a bigger gap where they've put in all this investment to build their model, and it's like best model in the world type stuff, and they don't want people piggybacking off of their model and being able to easily catch up, or they're still going to be far behind. They're still going to be behind them, but like basically they're just trying to stop. You know, they're pulling up the ladder behind them so to stop people kind of copying them, and specifically, right? You know, when you look at like this is what the Chinese have been famously did with like DeepSeek, where they were able to really build a model basically at 1/20th of the cost, and sort of get, you know, only a few months behind, because they basically use these frontier models to regenerate the next model. So they're trying to put a block on that. It's interesting on a couple of lenses. One is because just basically this idea of as a more principled thing where people are going, wait, so you're going to be, people get really sensitive about this kind of stuff because you know, the worry is that we're going to have these AI supercomputers, but then there's going to be these, you know, overlords over the top that will be able to tell us, hey, you can only use it for this and you can use it for this, but you can't use it for this. And people that really hate it, well, first of all, people hate it when like the government does that to them, but they hate it even more when it's like, you know, a cabal of billionaires that are deciding what you can use it for and stuff. And it's very similar, I would say, in a sense, to the sensitivities people have around, you know, getting banned from social media or this sort of thing, where on the one hand, it's a private, you know, this is like a private company product. Surely they can design their product however they want. On the other hand, people almost look at this stuff like a public good because it's so important and so valuable to the world. And yeah, people just get really in their feelings over it. so it you know, as you can see, it's got like this one post has like already cracked a million views, tons of quote tweets about it. People are up in arms over this, and I do think it also it's a reminder of there's that nagging idea about what if we had like a decentralized model, like something that couldn't be rigged like this, because people don't, in this one case it's talking about, building models or something, but also, do you remember when, for example, Gemini did that thing where they had like a super woke version of their model where you couldn't generate pictures of white people, like if you asked to, like, so it's that sort of thing where people don't want interference with their models, essentially.
Yeah, dude, this entire like AI war has been crazy. Like I remember when do you remember when they pulled out of like the White House deal? The deal with like I just remember being like, I remember seeing that story and being like, God, dude, is that the real story? Like, is that what happened? Can you just get a deal with like the government and then just walk out and start going like, yeah, like we're good, and then having this whole PR war? I was just like, this is crazy.
And it was super interesting too, because it was right before the start of like several key bombing type situations by the government, and the government was like, you're stopping our use of this technology for the war. And it's actually also interesting because it's like, I wonder what they are using it for. And also it's kind of, when you see like the war is a really good example, because there was, for like famously in Iran early on in that, when America started, in the war going back a few months, like America bombed this school in Iran, and it was like, clearly, I think people recognized it was an accident. I don't think anyone really would accuse, it's like, I don't think anyone seriously thought, oh, hey, America is intentionally trying to like bomb this primary school, of like little girls. So I don't think anybody really thought that, but it did raise the question, like, whoa, did you guys like use AI to generate that target? Like, how did that happen? Like, how did you? And it does raise a lot of questions when they're using these models in these kind of really serious things. But yeah, I mean, you flipped onto this next post, which is, I guess, talking about this. So Anthropic,
it's still in the same vein. It's really just a few more like details around just everything related to Anthropic here. But yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy last 30 days for them, for sure.
I just can't imagine what it's like to be Dario, where, because compare it to, like, the thing that's crazy about him in particular is he sort of came from nothing, right? Like when you look at, Elon, I feel like he's been mega famous, mega rich for such a long period of time. Sam Altman was like a guy, like a real player, even before OpenAI's success. Like, he was already minted. Yes, he's now many orders of magnitude richer, but he was already minted. But like Dario was a guy, he was just like, a regular cat, like a few years ago. Like, that's what's so.
I think that's why people are gravitating toward him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there is something cool about the story. Like, this guy, just like a normal ass dude and then suddenly he's like in control of the most powerful thing in the world, like really, really quickly. Like, in the
he looks like he walked out of the suburbs of like Ohio or something, off some random like suburb.
Yeah, it's actually it's hard to kind of fathom what it would be like. I there's a new social media movie coming out, or like the Social Network 2, about Facebook after the original Facebook movie, and this new Social Network movie sounds actually like it kind of sucks, because it's talking about some boring, irrelevant story from 5 years ago that nobody even remembers anymore. But I bring it up because I would love to see a movie about like this guy's life. Like, this would be, there are like this would be such a trip of a trip to. He must be like, sometimes he must be like, am I dreaming? Like, is this actually real? But
Dude, and they're moving fast too. Like these guys are flipping stones like 1,000 miles an hour. Like this jumped as well. Like I'm pretty sure there's another one I saw on Polymarket where it was comparing Anthropic and OpenAI's IPOs, and I forgot, I can't remember I don't remember which direction it went, because OpenAI filed for it. I think their chances soared above Anthropic's to IPO first. Obviously, probably the third IPO is just going to be sort of lackluster at that point, even though it's a big name. I just don't know where the money's going to come from. But yeah, I saw the Anthropic's chances did soar if they're going to IPO before Turkey Day. So it's going to be by Halloween. So that'd be crazy, dude.
Yeah, this stuff creates a momentum of its own, because once one does it, the other one sort of feels like they have to do it just as like a pure competition thing, because people are like, why haven't you done it?
It's like game theory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pissing match as well, but it's also partly because they want to be able to. They need, like, these companies want access to so much capital, and I mean, we'll get to the Sailor MicroStrategy stuff later, but that's a good example of, like, when you're public, you can raise a ton of capital quickly in a way that, like, it's harder. I mean, obviously, like, Anthropic and OpenAI aren't exactly capital constrained right now. Like, they're able to raise it, but at the same time, they know the hype and froth is there in the retail, and like they might be able to get it at a better price if, because like people will buy this stuff at any price if they could get their hands on it right now. Because what price do you value? If you think it's going to be super intelligence, like, you just, you're not going to. The market will just go bonkers for this. I don't think there's any, like, I got a question for you, and I know this is like a question without notice, and like it's impossible to know. But what do you think the market cap of Anthropic will be when it IPOs? And what do you think the market cap will be at the end of the year as well?
So OpenAI got valued at 850 billion, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
All right.
Man, I'll probably close to that number.
I'll say it IPOs at 1.4 trillion, and I'll say and like
that's really high.
I think it'll run, because that's part of why they're IPOing, right? They're going to pump up these private numbers. Pump it up, and then they're going to go to the public and say, buy our shares, retail. I mean, I'm not to be too negative about, them just using retail as exit liquidity, but there is probably an element of that. And then ultimately it's a question of how good are these companies and how much, even though they'll be at a crazy valuation, which they will be, they'll be in an insane valuation. But at the same time, when something is growing exponentially, which, like, to be fair, it is, you can have a stupid valuation suddenly be a really good valuation really quickly too. Like, so this is the kind of thing that they could grow into it and be like, we could be looking at it, I remember when Facebook IPO'd, people thought that was an insane valuation, and you were 10 bagged if you bought more than 10x if you bought it from there, right? So there is a way. I mean, people thought it was insane when there are so many examples of this. Everybody thought in like 2015 Tesla had a stupid valuation. Like, Tesla was this public company that was like laughably expensive as a valuation. It was just like ludicrous. And in fact, there was one of the most funny things on like a really active section of Twitter at the time was like Tesla Q, like the basically the bears of Tesla were like, they were just pumping out content, and it was actually like a really viral big subsection of Twitter. And they were, this was back when Tesla was a tenth of this current size. And the point they had there is it was massively overvalued. So you can have these, like, you could have you could have Anthropic and OpenAI like IPO at these stupid valuations and yet end up being good buys anyway. Like that's, and also it's probably, I mean, that's also the narrative and the argument for SpaceX coming up, right? Everybody knows it's like this just absolutely ludicrous valuation, but it's like, yeah, but you know, give it 5 years and then, you know, mining asteroids and bringing back whatever, and it's like, okay, maybe it's a good valuation.
Yeah, that is a good point. Honestly, I'm actually glad you went in that direction because the next tab does have to do the SpaceX. Obviously, that IPO is going to be Friday. For those who are watching right now, it's like pretty much the main thing that people are watching for. The cycle, you know, it's so crazy. You go from like Nvidia being like the dominant name of the cycle, like the biggest name, just walk around the aura, the jacket from Jensen Huang, and now SpaceX IPO just pulls up, and like everyone's getting dwarfed. Like everyone is looking at SpaceX right now. Nobody cares about Nvidia earnings. It's gonna be a big name. I do think it's probably gonna just be like a big day, and then just sort of like, I don't know. Like it depends how it obviously depends how it goes. Like everything depends on the performance of the actual IPO day. But I could totally see it being a day that just gets absorbed into the market. Like a lot of things have sold off for people to prepare for this. But I could totally see where it just gets absorbed. You know, maybe things pull back for a little bit, and then we kind of just trudge on as normal almost. And then sort of it just gets absorbed. It becomes part of the market, and next thing you know, we just kind of move forward, business as usual.
One of the interesting things to think about is, if you recall, a theory that Saylor has about what happened to MicroStrategy is the kind of fast money, the hot money chasing the exciting thing left MicroStrategy, left Bitcoin to chase AI. And it had, and you know, obviously the memory stocks have gone bonkers, the energy stocks, like these kind of historically Bitcoin miners that have shifted to being these kind of energy companies that provide, you know, compute, like energy for compute. And I'm talking about, like, you know, they getting all these deals with the hyperscalers, and I'm talking about Wolf, Hut 8, Cypher, all of these companies have done so well, and others as well. But what will be interesting is if there is hot money, because there's no question there's hot money going into those companies. That's why they've gone bonkers, and they've been amazing investments, no question about that. And the thesis has been right about, hey, if AI is the thing, you want to be looking at where are the bottlenecks, memory and power. So these power companies have done so well, but it does beg the question: when something like a SpaceX comes in, does that enable? Is there still room for all like this heat that's in memory and power of AI, like the AI narrative? Does that get transferred to SpaceX, or is there enough momentum within the market that all of these things can run at the same time? I don't know. I mean, I do think it's interesting that, for example, 18 months ago, quantum was running hot, and then now it's like really cooled off for sure.
Yeah, it has. That was the word. That's a good word to use. The cool off. That's a good word to use. I feel like every time we have a new thing in the market has that cool off where people just sort of like acknowledge it into the market.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's room for all of these things to run simultaneously, or if there's a kind of an embedded competition amongst it. And I mean, there's always a market beta where things go up, but it also, in a way, it kind of reminds me of like in the crypto world where, you know, you can have like all crypto goes up or goes down to some extent based on beta, but at the same time, there is an embedded competition where like certain coins will do well, and then they'll be attracting the attention, and then the other coins will not do well. And I sort of wonder, like, is SpaceX going to be sucking the oxygen in the room? If all of this capital is going to be flying to SpaceX, like, I'm going to just say, like, just so everybody knows, and I'm not breaking ground here, but like, it's not just going to be coming from people's bank accounts. Like, probably what's going to happen is, in order for people to be buying SpaceX, they're going to be selling something else. And I think the question is what are they selling to buy SpaceX? And I wouldn't be shocked if it's a lot of, well, first of all, probably has been some Bitcoin and this sort of thing, but generally some of these other hot assets, will they be selling those in order to get SpaceX? So that's I'm anticipating a bit of a market rotation potentially if it is as described with all this massive investment, like hundreds of billions of dollars. It has to come from somewhere, right? It's not like they just pulled it out of the mattress. The chances are they're liquidating other assets to invest in it. So that's something that I want to watch, and that's nothing to do with talking about the quality of other companies or the quality of other assets. Like these can be absolutely, these can be great things, and the narrative can be spot on, and the investments, they can be A+, but at the same time, there is still market dynamics where if something big like SpaceX comes along and it's like, well, it's going to be funded somehow. So that's something to watch.
It's a good point. Yeah, we'll see. And I clicked into the photo for those who are watching to get a bit more details on why, and just some more details on the Forex oversubscription for this IPO. But not only do they prepare for this IPO, but potentially the Anthropic one before Halloween, which is just really a couple months to recover, to get more cash, to figure out where the heck the money is going to come from. Seems like everyone's starting to run out. We've also got this one coming up as well. That people are very excited for, which is the OpenAI IPO. They just filed for one. Current valuation, $852 billion. Earliest target is going to be Q4. So it's even possible that this just ends up not really being a factor this year. It might just be a 2027 story. But Goldman and Morgan are the lead banks, which I believe are the same ones as SpaceX lead banks. So interesting stuff here. But yeah, man, weekly active ChatGPT users, 900 million plus. I'm one of those, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I enjoy ChatGPT. It's very good, dude. It's very good. And recently too, the image creation lately has been really solid. It's like, okay, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, you got to credit them. Like they've put out an amazing product. All of it's transformed the world, and it's still early on in the space. I think based on the progress that this is the layman's version of going, hey, what we have now is a lot better than it was 6 months ago. So that's like a good sign. I think when we get to a point where, like, the concern will be, for example, we've clearly maxed out, or at least seemingly maxed out, like phones. Like the one thing you'll notice is like after the iPhone, they got better in every year. But now it's like, hey, if you bought a phone in 2023 or you bought a phone in 2025, it's like, kind of the same thing, right? Like there's not much difference. So I'm hoping we've still got, a lot of time left where these models just keep getting better and better and better. Because, trying to do some cool shit with them, basically. But, yeah, man, I also, by the way, like we know, we're all like, it's in our interest. It's funny how these things, it's that old, like, too big to fail thing where like the whole world needs this stuff to work, because collectively as humanity, we're putting so much of our capital into it. Like we can't really afford this to be like, I'll tell you what we don't want. We can't afford this to be like, not that nearly the amount of capital went into it than this is, but go back and look 5 years ago where it was like all of this capital and time and mental energy was put into crypto in a world where like actually it was like, wait a minute, we're creating digital JPEGs here. Like, are we wasting our time? And it was like, and it was kind of obvious in the moment, to be fair, but it's like, yeah, actually we are wasting our time as a world, as a collective. Like, gee, like, we got some of the smartest brains in the world, and they're like, how can I encrypt this image onto the blockchain?
No, dude, when you have FOMO involved, everything's out the window.
Like
there's FOMO involved.
I do think we can stop for a second and at least acknowledge we've taken a big step forward for humanity, that the smartest people in the world are now seemingly going, hey, let's investigate space. Let's investigate artificial intelligence. Like, isn't it better that we're doing this instead of how do I put this image on the blockchain and then leverage that image so I can buy another image?
Yeah.
And then I can sell it to someone else, and then I can create a Ponzi here, and I can put a pool of Ponzis here. And I do think that
I agree. Sometimes you like pull your head out of the sand, you kind of realize a lot of it's just cope.
Yeah. So I think that's a good thing, generally.
Yeah. Well, let's see what ends up happening here. This is going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. We'll have a bunch of time to cover this story as well, since it looks like there's a chance it happens this year, but we're not sure. Next story here, moving a little bit over to like the Bitcoin side of things. We have Peter Schiff on a boat here, on a yacht in a Hawaiian shirt, and he's talking a little bit about Bitcoin here, a little bit about MSTR. We'll see what he has to say. Let me unmute.
I don't care what you think about Bitcoin. You could disagree with me. You think maybe in the long run it's going to be a new digital gold. It's going to have some kind of value of who knows what. But before Bitcoin can get to the promised land, it's got to get through the liquidation of Strategy. This whole company has to go bankrupt. This whole thing has to be unwound because there's no way out of this. I don't care what you think.
What do you think?
I certainly hope that's not true, but this gets back to, I guess, something that we've been talking about a lot, which is we need Saylor to act responsibly. He has been doing some dumb things recently, and unfortunately, and I say they're dumb under the metric, under the measure, and the simple way I look at this is, are you increasing the risk that this is true? Like this is, it's painful to see him mess around with building out all like this STRC stuff. You're now creating a dangerous dynamic where you are, well, you're heavily leveraged by these payments you owe, but at the same time, yes, he will say, well, I can just cancel the payments. They can just cancel the dividend. But he's going to destroy all.
Yeah, that's definitely good.
That like the problem with that is, if he does that, the ability to ever borrow money again will be destroyed for him.
It's his only business,
and it will take down the equity. And if it might force, the problem is that, like, let's say, my fear is that, for example, even if we might get a situation in which he's like, let's say STRC, he pauses the dividend because he can't make the payments. Okay, so then STRC the price of them massively tanks. He can't raise any more money through credit, maybe ever again. It's going to impair the equity price. So then what happens is, what if the equity valuation of the company gets significantly below the holdings of the Bitcoin, right? Because he does hold a lot of Bitcoin. But then he starts going, well, wait a second. The market is valuing my company at $20 billion, but I've got $50 billion of Bitcoin. So why didn't I sell the Bitcoin to buy back my stock? And then he starts selling the Bitcoin, and that creates a cascading effect on the Bitcoin. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be a bear about this. I really am not, because I really do not want to see this happen. And I don't think it has to happen by any stretch of the imagination. But equally, we need him to be a responsible steward of this. And it sucks because Bitcoin is supposed to be, it sucks because he genuinely is like the man that, he can't destroy the network in the sense of, there'll be new blocks coming regardless. But Michael Saylor is, captain of the ship when it comes to the Bitcoin price. There's no question about that. He can, if he doesn't act responsibly, he could really nuke this thing, which would be against his interests. But that's when it gets back to, yeah, so he's not going to do that because it's against his interests. Nobody wants Bitcoin price to go up more than him, surely. And yet, we're witnessing some very stupid things from him recently, like, oh, I'm going to start selling Bitcoin. And he said that purely, by the way, because he wanted to be able to raise more money. So he did that because he thought, this will help me, my capital. I'll prove that my Bitcoin is liquid and I'll be able to raise capital easier. It had the exact opposite effect. Now he's capital impaired because STRC is down. It's trading well below par, or trading at $100. It's now trading in the 90s.
Yeah, it's at 95 as of a couple hours ago.
So let's be crystal clear about this. MicroStrategy is raising money at about 11% interest, and Michael Saylor sitting on his yacht or sitting around the table with his mates, whatever, and he's saying, you know what? I should be able to raise money at 8, not 11. I have all of this liquid balance sheet. I have all of this Bitcoin. This isn't right. I'm gonna prove to the market that I have so much liquid cash that they're gonna lend to me not at 11. They're gonna lend to me at 8. And then what happens is he sells his Bitcoin. The market freaks out that he's going to sell his Bitcoin. It predictably tanks the Bitcoin price, tanks the MicroStrategy price, tanks the STRC price. And then what happens is, instead of meaning he can borrow money at instead of meaning he can go from 11 to 8, now if he wants to borrow money, the implication is that he's going to need to borrow at 14 in order to borrow money. And it starts to get get unwieldy and stupid. And he walked it back a little bit, right? Because it wasn't just that he sold the Bitcoin, he also got rid of his cash reserve. So they had years of dividend payments just sitting in a bank account that they could pay off, right? But then he got rid of it. He bought a bond. He bought back bonds that weren't due for 4 years. He bought them back. And so now he's in a situation in which the cash reserve is gone. Market's freaking out. He goes in last week. He tries to get back another 100 million of the cash reserve, which was good. So basically, he's walked it back, which is the right thing to do because he just monumentally screwed up. But it gets back to this old thing, which it's so frustrating. It's so disappointing because it's a lesson that, I don't need to tell Michael Saylor this because he knows it, because he's talked about this on podcasts himself. Say what you're going to do and then do that. And that's how you get confidence in the market. The market freaks out when they don't know what you're going to do. For so long, for years, Michael Saylor was so strong and crystal clear. We are going to accumulate Bitcoin. And it's like, oh, okay, we trust you, Michael, to accumulate Bitcoin. Now he's like, yeah, we're going to sell some Bitcoin depending on, capital management, blah, blah, blah. I was like, wait, what? So
and how much does it? And how much is it too? It's like he sells 32 Bitcoin, which is like nothing. Then he buys a ton the next day. But it's like, okay, so what does that mean? You're willing to sell 32 Bitcoin, or are you willing to sell 3,200 Bitcoin? Are you willing to sell 32,000 Bitcoin? What does that mean?
It's not about the 32 Bitcoin. It's about the signal that it says to. It's basically, you might as well wave a flag that say, I'm going to do something and you don't know what I'm going to do. You can't trust me because basically we have no idea what Saylor is going to do. We don't know. He's going to sell some Bitcoin at some point. Maybe that's what he's telling us. We don't know. How much? Is it going to cause massive downward pressure on the Bitcoin price? Is it going to cause a reflexive crash? We don't know. We don't think he's going to do that because that would be so stupid. That would just be so unbelievably stupid. But at the same time, now the market has to price in a risk that it didn't have to price in before. Before it was like, he would never do that. We're not going to price that.
Literally,
he would never do that.
Literally, that's exactly what I thought. He would never sell Bitcoin ever.
He's never going to do that. And then now it's like, wait, he might do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now in the market's model of the future, we have to account for, well, what if he does that? You know, that could be really bad, and it creates a ton of uncertainty. It's just the market hates uncertainty above all else. It's like, it's not even that it's necessarily something terrible is going to happen. It's just that the market doesn't know what's going to happen. And it's, the thing is that what boggles the mind is that Michael Saylor knows all of this. He knows the market hates uncertainty. He's said it repeatedly in the past, but somehow he has just lost his way. I mean, it's like a it's really, I genuinely think that it's hard to fathom. I almost think it's just a case of, an unfortunate case of ego, and a case of feeling like you have to prove yourself to be the smartest person in the room, because he wants to get the kudos for doing something brilliant. It's not the truth is that he's already won. He's got so much Bitcoin. If he could just sit on it and do nothing, he's already won. But then again, people aren't going to really give him the credit that he wants, because he wants people to talk about him. Like he literally sees Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos as his contemporaries. He measures himself against them, So when people give them the credit for being the genius, he doesn't get that credit. He wants that credit, and so he's willing to risk and do stupid things in order to try and show his financial engineering genius, as opposed to being like Michael, you're sitting on so much Bitcoin, just don't blow it up, just don't risk it. But he feels like he has to justify his existence, when actually it's just do nothing.
Someone said, there was someone who put out, this was back when Saylor could do no wrong because the prices were up. Yeah. And they were honestly, they're if we're going to be honest, they're Saylor is addicted to gambling. They're the guy's addicted to leverage trading. He's always been, nothing has ever changed. He just got early on a big wave, and there's nothing else about the story. And I remember being I guess we'll find out in a couple of years if he was right.
Well, I would have said, I honestly, at the time, and I'm guilty of this, because I would have, if someone told me that 2 years ago, I would have probably defended Saylor. But now watching some of the actions, I go is that true? You just sort of worry. You worry it's true, and I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know, but I do. I just it does create a cloud of uncertainty that doesn't need to be there. Is what I would say, and I just hope that he doesn't try. I just want him to stop trying to be a genius and start trying to be responsible, I guess, is because I don't agree with Peter Schiff about, the world is not black and white about hey, this is how it has to play out. Definitely not. Definitely not. There's no way strategy has to have some kind of liquidation event. I do not believe that. But I also believe it's possible. It's possible. And I hope that Saylor is much more willing to acknowledge he's already won. Don't risk the 800,000 coins you have to try and get to 1 million. Instead, just you've already won, just chill, just be a little bit responsible with your cash flow management. Don't blow yourself up over this. Survive a bear market. And there will be brighter days in the future. And I do think, by the way, Cade, everybody sold last year because of a 4-year cycle. That was such a big part of the narrative, right? And to be fair, it worked. Now Bitcoin's in this bear market, but all of that logic tells you, hey, what happens next year? Winter is over. And right. Next, what happens next year? Next year, people go, whoa, gee, it's so the point is that there's probably, if history has taught us anything, Bitcoin will probably have its time again. But just don't, if you're sitting on $2 billion worth of cash that can, as basically a war chest to get you through the winter, don't blow it all in one big hit as a way to teach the market a lesson, which is what I'm going to inoculate the market. I'm going to spend all my cash and then I'm going to sell Bitcoin. Like, what? That's the worst idea I've ever heard, and it's come out of Michael Saylor's mouth, and predictably tanked the market. It's like, please stop trying to teach lessons. Stop trying to be a genius, Michael. Just make it through the winter, because it's not going to last forever. But you might, it's not going to last forever. But just otherwise you're going to prove Peter Schiff right, and that would be terrible.
It's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
All the Bitcoiners are shivering when they hear that.
Yeah.
That's fine. No, I think that's well said, honestly. It's tough to lever up this type of product when your average Bitcoin price is like $75,000 or something like that. Yeah, he's levered up. He's levered up a lot right now. And I mean, I think it's cool. What he's got is cool. He's like, hey, look, why would we not put to use a pristine financial instrument like Bitcoin and build something on this that can really help people? Like, I do believe that he believes that to be true. I think he believes in Bitcoin. He's just putting a lot on this 4-year cycle and needing to play out this time. Like, everything relies on this next one playing out. Like, and it's so funny because like someone brought this up in a trading space once, and they were like, look, it's so funny. Like, people are haters and lovers of the 4-year cycle depending on like when you are in that cycle of whether or not you'll support the thesis or not, depending on whether or not it's going through. So it's just interesting. So I was like, man, all these guys saying, hey, 4-year cycle's not real, super cycle, baby, 4-year cycle's stupid. All the karmas on the way back were like, hey, like prices going back up. Why? It always does historically. Every 4 years, David, we cycle right back up. And people were like, that 4-year cycle thing that you're talking about that you said was ridiculous. Like, is that weird? So it'll be funny to watch what happens. One thing I want to, before I forget, I do want to say for those who are watching, if you are enjoying, please take a second and repost the stream and follow Thomas if you're watching. And also big shout out to Rex Shares for sponsoring the stream today. Big shout out to them. They are one of our longest running clients. I just thought of it because we were looking at an MSCR product. They've got a bunch of things on their platform. They are an ETF platform. One of them that they have that's crushing, obviously, is MSCR's Inverse, right? So strategy has not exactly been performing very well. So in the last month, they're not doing so hot. And if you're trading the inverse one of that, you're cooking up 100% in the last month. And so if you're a trader out there looking to trade these markets a little bit, there's a bunch of interesting options in the ETF world, I will say. Rex Shares has some really cool double X levered ones, long and short. And so for the traders out there who are interested, there's a link down below in the tweet below the stream, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description. And if you are, an investor should carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses before investing. The fund's prospectus and summary prospectus contains this and other info about Rex Shares. And if you want to obtain these, visit their website at rexshares.com. Again, that link is down below. Definitely read carefully before investing. Super excited to be working with them, one of our longest running clients. Again, big shout out to them for sponsoring the show today. But yeah, I just thought of that when we were looking at the Saylor stuff just now. But yeah, dude, we'll see what happens with Saylor. If he wins, dude, it'll be such a win. Like, like so levered up to the max, and it's just like he'll be the greatest DGen of all time. Potentially even greater DGen than Sam Beckman-Fried himself, who truly just walked so that we could run. Apparently, if I had seen the amount of crime that I knew we'd see in the last few years from our president, then I wouldn't have judged Mr. SBX so much. Maybe, but look, he's getting an official potential pardon. Like I don't know what you would call this, like a official submission.
Well, he wants a pardon. He wants a pardon,
yes.
And also let's look at the first. Let's look at his first line. Go. Wait, can you go back? Let me read that. The first thing he says, the first sentence: "I didn't steal user funds." Well, actually, Sam, you did steal user funds, and in fact, you're found guilty of that, and that's why you're sent to jail for 30 years. So actually, this is really interesting because there was another some commentary came out from, I forget the guy's name, but he shared a cell with Sam. and he's like talking to Sam in prison. And one of the things he was talking about with Sam is that he doesn't even really acknowledge, like he doesn't feel any sense of guilt. Like he doesn't acknowledge what he did. Like he doesn't feel guilty. He's not sorry about it. He just thinks he was wronged essentially by being, you know, like
he got basically caught. He's just kind of bitter about it.
No, it's more like he never did anything wrong, and this is all, you know, this is all a big mistake, and that actually he should be pardoned, and you know, people should say sorry to him for ever accusing him of doing anything wrong. Like he's so delusional, I guess is the correct word. He doesn't even acknowledge the basic essence of his crime, which was he did steal user funds. They were not his funds. He took other people's money, and he spent that money doing, you know, all kinds of stuff that had, like, it was not his money to spend. He stole the money. He created a bank, robbed the bank himself, spent the money. Then when people asked for their money back, he couldn't give it to them because he didn't have the money anymore. Turns out, I will say, Sam, he is delusional, potentially evil, but also kind of a genius. So you can have, like, several things can be true at once. Like, it's not to say he is an incredibly high IQ.
He had a huge investment in Anthropic really early, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So he's saying, well, hey, you know, if you looked at all the money I had, the capital I had, it's actually worth more than what I had originally, right? So he's saying it's worth more than the deposits because, like, his investment in Anthropic and this sort of thing. Well, that's true, but it wasn't his money to invest. Like, he just stole other people's money and then started using it like, hey, this is my money.
Responsible thief. Is a financially responsible thief.
As in, if I want advice on my investment portfolio about how to invest it, Sam is probably a good person to ask. If I want somebody to trust or manage user funds, he would be the worst person in the world to ask. And fundamentally, he's a criminal, a thief, and, you know, he deserves what he's got. Now, and I know, like, to your point, you made the comment about the White House, and certainly there's been some shady market stuff going on. But I do think that what Sam did was, you know, on another level, right? Like
it was bad.
It's not just putting out. It's not like, you know, like the Trump coin, Melania coin stuff is, you know, not like I wouldn't advise it. I don't think it was a good thing.
No, Sam Bankman-Fried is wild for what he did. Taking everyone's money on the exchange that's on there so that they can make money and then just trading it. Like, it's just wild to see someone do it. It's like, bro, this guy's got balls. He's just like, you know what, guys? Take everyone's money and let's just trade it. It's like, brother, what?
So, I think one of the best examples of this was they had no Bitcoin. So you had millions of people that go onto FTX and click buy Bitcoin, and they bought the Bitcoin, and they're sitting there, they're looking at a screen, and it's credit to their account. Look, I own 1 Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. They had no Bitcoin. It was just a fake UI. Like, it was literally just like HTML on the screen. Like, yep, you got a Bitcoin, good for you. And actually, he had none. Like, you know, it was a scam. It was a scam as pure and simple as it could possibly be. And that's why, you know, when they brought it to a jury, they assessed it and they're like, you're guilty and you're going to jail for, you know, he's lucky he didn't, you know, arguably 25, 30 years is compared to, you know, compared to like what Madoff, you know, arguably he got off light, I would say. So I don't, unless, look, I will say that we don't know exactly how this White House stuff works and how much money he's going to funnel into the pockets of the people deciding this stuff. Maybe. Certainly, for example, Sam potentially has a lot more money than has been revealed because it's crypto, right? And like, you know, who's going to know if he's got access?
Of course he has extra wallets that he's put and stored, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. If,
you had to.
If he's got
or
access,
you even gave to your friend, said, hey, if anything ever happens to me, like these are my backups. I'm not going to know about them technically, you know.
How would you know? So does he have cash to splash around, to put in the right people's pockets to help get him a pardon? It's possible. I certainly hope not. It's possible, but I don't think. My guess is it won't happen. That's my guess. You know, we'll see in a few years, but that's my guess. My guess is it won't.
Yeah, I'm in the boat of possible but not probable. I'm kind of with you there. I don't think there's any reason for it to happen. There's no direct benefit. I don't think that Trump gets. He's already released CZ. There was barely any pushback there, to be honest. I thought was shocking, but there's no pushback there. He got off scot-free. He's let off multiple people. It could be the same argument for that gets him out of it, though. It could be that he just doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. Like, let's run it. Like, I'll take another guy in my pocket. But
maybe.
I don't know. I don't think the chances are high. I don't think it really matters. I think if he gets out, dude, he's going to be probably right back in the mix within a year. So he'll probably be back. I mean, we saw Ross Ulbright within a year of getting released from prison speak at the Bitcoin conference within a few months of that, just to kind of show face a little bit. And he's been largely off screen. But I think Sam Beckman-Fried is the type to come back and to lock in a little bit in the crypto industry. And honestly, I think crypto Twitter would totally forgive him within a couple months, and he'd just be right back in.
Don't know about that, but maybe some people.
I'm telling you, dude, crypto Twitter does not care. We'll see what happens, dude. But that's the last story I have. There's obviously a lot of things going on in the markets right now. Bitcoin's holding strong at 61.8. Right now, all the markets kind of in standstill, just sort of waiting on what's going to happen with this big IPO here in a couple days for SpaceX. And so I think that's where a lot of people are sitting. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, take a second, leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you guys thoughts, what you guys are trading, what you guys are investing in. If you guys are investing in the SpaceX IPO, if you're going to wait for a little bit, definitely be sure to give Thomas a follow. If you guys want to check out those various levered ETFs, check out that link below the stream. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to do this show. And yeah, man, take care. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you.